Hi there. Right. So I was gonna film most of the work that I was doing on the bike today, but this morning when I started work, my SD card filled up within about the first 2 seconds. So I ended up not taking any video of the work that I did, which is a pity because I've done lots of work on it today. Um, but I've not got any of it because I couldn't be bothered to go in and clear out my SD card. I just wanted to get on with the job. So basically, I've done a lot of work and I've not got any film footage of it. So basically, we'll just have a look around the bike and just sort of talk about a few things. So um, that's the paddock stand that I got. Brand new paddock stand off eBay. About 23 quid, I think it was, KCT. Which I think is a British brand. Got a back one on order as well from Demon Tweaks, but they've got to wait for the pin to come. It's coming from abroad, and it's taking a few weeks to get here. So I don't have a paddock stand at the moment, which is not ideal, but it's just the way it is. So I've got these car stands under the rear sets, which is just helping stabilize the whole thing. So that's kind of that. So where I'm at with the bike, so I've done lots of stripping it down and cleaning it. I've got the rear under tray out, as you can see. Started giving that a bit of a clean up, kind of soak it in some water because it was extremely dirty. So that's that. I've also taken the loom out of the bike, completely disconnected the loom from everything and stripped it all out. So that's now out, and I've taken that inside. Once I started stripping it down, I was like, do you know what, I'm just going to take kind of most of everything off and just get it down to an engine and a chassis, which, as you can see, that's kind of pretty much what I've done. I've taken off the headlight and the clocks and all that sort of stuff off the front. That's all in the box over here. And also kind of like other bits and pieces, engine cases and whatnot. So that's kind of the good news. I've got a bunch of stuff done on it. So there's bad news about this bike as well, and the bad news is to do with the engine. So as I said in my video that I made yesterday, I compression tested it, and I've got about 100 psi on cylinders 1 and 2, just over 100 psi, and about 120 psi on cylinder 3, which is a good bit below what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be about 150, maybe 175, somewhere around there, so it's well below what it should be. So I decided to check the valve clearances earlier on today. So I took this the valve cover off, which is, the valve cover is pretty sort of flaky. That's going to need sort of cleaned up and painted, but that's another job that'll get done at some point later, along with many other things that need cleaned up and painted on this thing. But so the valve clearances, check them all. So the Haynes manual says the inlet cam, the inlet valves are supposed to be between 0.1 and 0.15, okay, and the exhaust are supposed to be between 0.15 and 0.2. So I've checked them all, I scribbled down all the numbers, and the bad news is they're all within spec. Well, normally that would be good news, but in this case it's bad news, because what it means is there's some other problem which is causing a low compression, and so it has to be something further down in the engine. So I've called the Triumph dealer in Edinburgh, and they've quoted me, I think it was about £74 for a head gasket, and the piston rings are about 83 quid per piston, so you're looking at something like 250 quid for piston rings, about 75 for the gasket, so we're looking at over 300 to get gasket and piston rings, plus it's a really big job. So I looked up in the Haynes manual to see what's involved in getting the cylinder head off, and obviously it kind of lists all the things you've got to remove. Most of the things are off already: tank, airbox, throttle bodies, cam cover. You know, I'm already kind of like quite a bit into the engine, as you can see, but there's still a bit more that will need to come off. So the exhausts have to come off, the exhaust headers, and to get those off you also have to take off the radiator. So I'm going to have to drain the cooling system again, take the radiator off, take the exhaust headers off. I'll also need to take the cams out, and to get the cams out I've got to take the cam chain off, out, and to get the cam chain out I need to get the cam chain tensioner out, which is there, and I've already removed the bolts from the clutch cover / engine case on the right hand side. Took that off this morning in order to turn the engine over to top dead center for each cylinder for doing valve clearances. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. So basically looking at kind of like at least a partial engine rebuild, maybe not right down into sort of like the crankcase necessarily, but I'm going to have to take the cylinder head off one way or another. The cylinder head's got to come off. What I did was I got a bit of white spirit, which I used for like cleaning, degreasing, just basically normal household white spirit, and I poured some of that with a funnel into each of these. And I can't really see now because it's kind of dark, but that was like a couple of hours ago. I think it, do you know what, that's crazy. I think it's actually still there. I can actually see a bit of reflection in there. Yeah, so it's actually still sitting there on top of the valve. So those valves are sealing really well. That one I couldn't test because that one's on the intake stroke. So I've just put that back in there to protect the engine from debris. Yeah, so it's not really, the low compression isn't really a valve's problem. It doesn't seem to be anyway. So I think it's either got to be the head gasket or it's got to be the piston rings. I'm hoping it's just the head gasket. If it's piston rings, well, that's going to get harder still, because then I have to take out the liners, maybe get new liners as well if the bores are damaged. The Triumph dealer suggested that if somebody let the oil get low, that the bores could be kind of scratched or whatever, or something to that effect. So I might end up having to replace the liners and the piston rings as well. So this was supposed to be like a project that I can do in a few weeks, but I think it's going to be quite a few weeks at this rate. I think we're probably looking at maybe a few months to get this all sorted out, fixed up, built back up and put back together and through an MOT. So there we go, that's kind of an update on the Triumph Sprint, and watch this space. Thanks for watching.